3D graphics and animation are always challenging to create and manipulate on a two-dimensional screen. Motion 3 remains true to the application's spirit of simplicity by offering intuitive and powerful tools and controls for getting around your 3D virtual stage. You begin working in 3 dimensions with Motion just as you would in 2. Drag items from the file browser into your composition. Assemble them as you see fit, adjust blend modes and opacity as desired. The simplest way to switch to 3D is to add a camera. Click the New Camera button at the top of the canvas, and you'll be asked whether you want to switch your 2D groups to 3D. Groups are the containers for layers in the Layers tab, and each one can be set to 2D or 3D, affecting all the objects contained within them. You can change a group's 2D or 3D state at any time by clicking on the icon in the layer list. Click Switch to 3D to continue. If you haven't already set it, activate the HUD by clicking its icon at the top of the canvas or by pressing F7. With the camera still selected, you'll see a bank of movement controls. These same controls are used to adjust cameras, lights, and regular layers depending on what you have selected. Before you make any adjustments, click over to the Properties tab in the inspector and open the disclosure triangles to the left of Position and Rotation. This will give you a better grasp of what you're changing as you go. Hold down the mouse and drag over the first control in the HUD. You'll find that it moves the camera into or out of the virtual stage that Motion has created for you. The second control moves up, down, left, and right. The third moves left, right, forwards, and backwards. The fourth rotates, and the fifth scales. In the case of the camera, this produces a zooming effect. As you perform adjustments to a layer, an inset view in the lower right corner shows you the scene appearance from a complementary view. Holding down the Command key while clicking and dragging produces alternate movements. The Shift and Option keys produce coarse and fine modifications respectively. Note that even with a layer selected, you can still adjust the camera using 3 convenient transform controls located in the upper right corner of the canvas. Initially, the scene will look fairly flat, regardless of the change in camera perspective. To create depth in the scene, individual elements will need to be given their own depths. Select a layer in the Canvas or the Layers tab. If you can't click on a layer in the canvas because it's obscured, tap the X key to access an Exposé feature. Then select the layer you want and continue. Drag on the far left HUD control to move the position of the object in 3D space. Notice in the Properties tab that the Z position is the parameter that changes as you modify the item's depth. Also notice that the currently selected tool at the top left of the canvas is the Adjust 3D Transform tool. Clicking the Standard Select tool will return the HUD to displaying only basic properties for the layer. If at any time you can't see the transformation controls, select the Adjust 3D Transform tool or press the Q key. From time to time, you want to edit items that have moved far back into the scene and are consequently difficult to see. Clicking the small icon to the right of the layer's name will solo that object and bring it to full screen. This is very useful for tasks like masking. Click the same icon to return to the standard 3D view. You're not limited to seeing the scene from the camera's point of view. Click the label in the upper left corner of the canvas view space to change to an alternate view. Alternately, click the different sections of the compass in the lower left corner to instantly jump to a specific view. Many times, you want to maintain the alignment of elements in the composite when the camera is front and center, but create depth when the camera tilts. Motion includes a special movement for this. Select an item, then hold down the Command key while dragging across the far left Move control in the HUD. As you do so, you'll see no evident change in the canvas if your camera is centered at the front of the scene. But if you look at the Z position and scale of the object in the inspector, you'll see that both are being modified. Motion is scaling the object as it moves it to create the same perceived look when the camera is centered. Rotating the camera will now reveal a separation of layered elements in the 3D space. Motion also includes 3D lights. Choose Object, New Light to add a light to your scene. Choose from 4 different light types, modify color, and adjust a variety of other options depending on the light type selected. All of the parameters can of course be keyframed in the standard fashion. In addition, Motion includes some very useful behaviors for cameras. One of these is the zoom layer behavior. Select your camera and choose Add Behavior, Camera, Zoom Layer. Add an object to the image well in the HUD, and the camera will automatically zoom into the selected object. Fine-tune the animation with the transition, speed, and zoom sliders. To automatically rotate your camera about the center of the scene, choose Add Behavior, Camera, Sweep, and choose a start and end angle for the rotation. Also worth noting while working in 3D are the multiple display choices at the top right of the canvas, and the Walk Camera mode, which allows manipulation of the camera using the arrow keys and the mouse. As you begin to experiment creatively with Motion's 3D, keep an eye out for 3D-enabled boxes in particles, replicators, and paint parameters. Enabling 3D for these elements can instantly transform them into amazing 3-dimensional objects.